Hello, everyone. I'm Ms. Gian, and welcome to our first topic for SHRM, or Strategic Human Resource Management. So, this is our topic one, which is just an overview of the HRM concept. So, our learning objective for today is first and foremost to define HRM. So, what is it? The I no, it's not the hotel resources management. No, mo niya mo pag tourism lagi ni Miss nganong gistadihan ni nato. It's the human resources management or HR. No, all about HR. So it's not just about hiring and firing and HR. It's more than that. And where does this term come from? So we will look at very briefly where it originated and how it transformed over the years. Of course, we will also discuss its goals and beliefs. So, what is HRM saying? What is it trying to achieve? And why is it trying to achieve that? And then we'll also cover the theories of HRM. We'll both cover the business theories, which lies heavily on the business aspect, the economic aspect, more on the economic theories, and then we'll marry it into the psychological theories. Of course, we will be tackling more on the psychology. We'll be heavy on the parts of psychology because, well, we are psychology students, so we'll focus on that. And then, of course, lastly, you'll compare the models and the critics, and then we'll look at how they critique each model of HRM. So, just to give you an overview of what this course is, it's more on there will be, of course, theories, there will be lectures and concept discussed, but it's largely based or simulation based because in the end, this is applied psychology. And when we say applied, you will be applying the concepts. Okay, so that's why our ELA, our experiential learning activity, you no longer have that like an ocean type of freedom. There is a structured checklist of the ELA that you must facilitate. Okay, we need to simulate what a company undergoes on each facets of HR. Okay, so let's proceed with the learning objective number one. Okay, why is a psychology class studying HRM? 'Di ba dapat taan ni sa business, no? Business administration or the like, no? Mga, you get it, right? The business courses. Well, primarily because HRM is still applied psychology as mentioned. So, meaning to say, we will be covering psychological concepts like motivation, attitudes, learning, group behavior, well being of employees. Now, all of these concepts are under a psychological kanang branch, no? Or is it under the psychology branch? And if you look at it, it's inside, it's really psychology. It's just wearing a business suit, ika nga. The second, it is a career door. Much of the psychology graduates have a clear track wherein mudritso ra sila kanang sulod sa kanang HR field. Unlike other fields sa psychology wherein dagan kayo siya kanang milestones pa to achieve it ba. For example, if you want to be a psychologist, first you need to get your MA, you need to pass the compre for MA, you need to go undergo hours of internship, and then you need to pass the board exam. Okay, if you want to go the RPM license or the psychometrician license, of course you need to graduate psych and need to pass the RPM, right? For HR, if you want to be a human resource una assistant and then you climb up the ladder, you're in the industry side, they don't really require a RPM license, but it's a plus. No, it's just an advantage, but most of them don't require. So it's a career door na on track yun sa psychology. Okay? And then of course, all of us here are an employee. And even if you're like si mom and dad, no, you have a business legacy, it's very important that you understand the behavior of people. Okay? So that's why a psychology class is studying HRM. Although it is an elective for this university, and some it's a major part na sa ilang major subjects ang SHRM. Now, let's go over sa unsa din ang HRM, no? HRM is concerned with every aspect of how people are employed and managed in an organization. So when we say employed, we're in looking at the facet of recruitment and talent acquisition. So, kisa diri nakatrabaho na, right? You pass your resume is screened out, that is under the HR recruitment facet. Now, how do we train our employees so that they can immerse well with our culture? They stay. That's retention, no? How can we create an environment where people don't want to leave our company and rather they want to stay for a long, 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 long time, and then their skills continuously improve, no? So, that's now the entirety of HRM, wherein we're talking about the training and development or learning and development facet, and then we're looking into the performance and rewards and recognition. Sometimes they're separated, sometimes they're the same. And then employee relations, mga labor complaints, or naabay mga atraso si employees sa other co-employees niya. We're looking at ER at that point. And then of course, the engagement. No? We motivate, dili na ta kutob sa hiring and firing or punishing or rewarding good behavior. We are also rewarding good behavior, and we're trying to create an environment wherein an employee really feels they belong and then they're in line with the goals of the organization. Okay? So, according to Boxall and Person, no, everything an organization does to manage its employment relationships. And for Watson, it's putting people's effort, knowledge, and commitment to work so the organization can keep going into the future. Kaya, without the people, an organization is not even an organization. It's just, right, building with technologies. The people there are the asset, the key resource. But although saying that people are resources creates like kana bitang very materialistic tone to it, na kumbaga they're just disposable resources, but there's deeper meaning to human resources. Okay? So then, ang gi-cover aning HRM is strategic HR, resourcing, human capital, learning and development, knowledge management, performance and reward, social responsibility. So we do have that, and employee relations, organizational development, and of course, well-being. All right, we have your discussion questions. You can pause the video and engage with it. I do highly recommend that you engage with the questions here, but we will not be discussing this one, so we can achieve na less than an hour lang ni siyang lecture videos. Okay? So, let's look at how or trace back how the term HRM was developed. So, first we have welfare in 1920s. So, we're looking after workers in munitions factories. Then, we go into 1940s where the term now became labor management. So, during war ni siya, no? So, looking into wartime industry, mga union disputes. And then on the 1950s and 70s, big kayo ang term na personal management. This is also the area wherein ni critique sila sa term na kanang kanang resources ba ang people. I rather sorry, it was here the I. Anyway, so hiring, records, pay and disciplines, personal management. And then in the 1980s, HRM arrives. Now, people is a strategic asset. As you can see, it has no soul to it. Because again, consider ang mga tao as an asset to the company. So in today, they say na much better daw to use the word people management. Okay, we manage people, and people is more than just an asset. No, they're living beings capable of furthering their organizations aligned with its strategic goals. But even until today, we still use HR. No, is still having that traction, and in fact, people management is rarely used now. Maybe because HR, human resources, its term is in a cultural landscape and societal landscape, people now no longer look at it. People are assets. People are people to manage human resources. And wala, kumbaga ba, the meaning of HRM on the 1980s didn't stop there. Ni branch out siya, but people are still using HRM. So, if you're familiar with the Hawthorne studies, it's one of the most pivotal studies in industrial organization, because Hawthorne is a company, and then si Elton Mayo ang nag-start sa kanina studies. Originally, he wanted to study how to make people more productive. So he looked at his original proposition was that people are people are less productive. They're in a monotonous work setting. So what he did is he created an environment wherein there is a rotational shift. So every koan mag-rotation ana. There are a lot of studies, si kanang Mayo conducted a lot of studies, but ultimately he found out that the increase in productivity, the increase in workers' productivity is not because of kanang these factors, no, like rotational shifts or the lighting baron or the open spaces, everything, every variable that he tweaked, but rather a presence of a respected person, of someone they looked up to inside the room with them. And this is pivotal because you can see it everywhere. You can see it in the classrooms, you can see it in the medical field. If there's someone that's watching you, you can see students back go straighter, no? Imagine a good mo if you're doing an activity and the teacher is not there, of course, di ba, mag-cheat man mo or dili mo buhat sa activity kay thinking na, well, no one's watching. So, mana siyang pivotal kaayo ang Hawthorne studies, and they call it the Hawthorne effect. And then Lickert and McGregor pushed the same light. We need to treat people as responsible adults. So then HRM absorbed these ideas, those ideas, and shifted emphasis from being humane to being strategic. So ultimately, HRM now covers the definition of the two. And people mas nikagat siya sa HRM na word. Alright? So let's move on to the next slide. So when HRM first came around, ang academics, no, the scholars, they had a real debate about it. And it's actually a good debate. No, when you say HRM, there we have two, no, they have the debate na on the left side, you have the skeptics. They all say na it's just a rebrand, no? It's just in the same package. Rather, it's a new package, it's the same product. And while on the other side, no, they say that kanang no, this is the real deal. No, we're genuinely this concept is genuinely different from what we originally define HRM as. So, mo na siya, no, si Armstrong, nag-joke around siya na HRM is just a list of initials. And then, kanang si Leggy pointed out how fast everyone jumped to the term. Parang overnight na adapt nila. And then Henry and Pettigrew said it was normative from the start and from day one. So it handed out the diagnosis and cure at the same time. So again, no, si Guess and Story, they say na HRM rests on unitarism. So unsa ning meaning aning unitarism? Meaning the employee and the employer daw both have the same goal. They both have or want the same things. And they also say na this model says na kanang we're rather kanang kono we're chasing commitment, not compliance, and that HR strategy is deliberately tied to business strategy. And again, the big one is that people are assets to invest in, dili siya cost to cut. Go over the goals ni HRM. So there is five of them. First is to serve the strategy, build a high performance culture, and get and keep talent, build trust, and stay ethical. And then si Dyer on the next slide also made another list, no? Contribution, what employee behavior are we looking into? The compositional, the staffing ratio, the skill set that their employees have, also competence, and the commitment as well. You don't need to memorize this, okay? So just know that no one agrees on one single list. Kasi guess, napod siya iyahan, no? Integration, commitment, quality, flexibility. So to tie it all up, so put it more bluntly, and I like this version better, no? That ana si Boxall na the mission is to keep the firm alive with a workforce system that's both affordable and socially acceptable. So meaning ana, reduce cost but at the same time ethical gihapon na dila ka pataka og let go of people na ingan-ingan na lang no, they're disposable. Okay, so kanang so if you're really gonna think hard about this one, no, you look at the goals of HRM, and if you've been in a company, you know that if it's sinking, the first thing that gets taken away from the goal is being ethical. Kay usually ang company would let go jud of people even if unethical na siya. Na say you have a worker that's like no kanang gihatag niya iyang entire life sa company, and just because there are legalities to it, nya pwede ra siya pwede ra siya mataktak ingana lang kay wa siya ka sign og kontrata. So gitaktak siya, di ba? So just because the company wants to keep their costs as low as possible. And that's the reality, and a very sad reality for most of the companies, that even if there is the goal to stay ethical and there is the human aspect to it, most of the time, if the company is sinking, madyo na yung number one na mawagtang. So let's go over the philosophy of HRM. Now, HRM isn't a collective of theory. It is backed by a bunch of theories, but HRM itself is not a theory. It doesn't predict anything. No, it doesn't explain anything. It's more of like a set of belief and principle on how you go about it. So, si story na siya ay four kabuok, no? Four beliefs. So, first is that people are not machinery, no? They are not capital. They are actually what give a firm its edge, its competitive edge. And then, no, the goal is commitment, not obedience. Okay, ultimately, the firm or the organization succeeds more if the employees are committed to them, not just plainly following just because they're asked to follow, or they're asked to comply. And then the decisions about people are strategic decisions, no? So they belong at the top table. And lastly is that HR policy has to be built into planning and not bolted right afterwards. Now, si Leggy, no, they found the same common themes. Now, for Leggy, or Leg, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm also too lazy to search it up or know how to pronounce it. But anyway, according to Leggy's common themes, funny man ang Leggy, so Legs na lang. Common themes is that HR policy should be woven into strategic business planning, and it should reinforce a good culture or change a bad one. And number three is people are valuable and hard for rivals to copy. As mentioned, no, kind of similar atong kang story na the people are a source of an advantage in and really a hard to copy. And consistent policies build commitment, and commitment makes people willing to be flexible. Now, if you look at the common themes ani nilang duha, you can see that, well, ultimately it discusses that the philosophy behind HRM is that when you treat people well, they commit to the organization and they flex the organization, they promote the organization, and that is a good business exchange, no? So if you treat them well, you treat them ethically, so they return the favor as well by being committed to them and doing behaviors that will further the goals of the organization. So I have here a discussion question na, our people are our greatest asset. So do you think this is a belief or just a company slogan to entice new hires to join the company? So if you work in a company, how would that look like if that company actually embodies this type of slogan na, our people are our greatest asset? Okay? I worked in a kanang company once, and their part of their slogan is to say na kanang, we are a people first organization. But I found out, no, as an HR there, I found out na it's just their slogan, because ultimately they're just repackaging stuff to make it sound nice, nga na ba? So if you really see companies that value people, you would really see na these people have really long tenures. Makabantay ka ng attrition rates nila low, that the numbers speak for itself. When I say attrition rates, meaning gamay ka sila resignation numbers. So their attrition rates are low, and then their company or their employees usually have very high tenures. So mga 5 to 10 years na mostly nila, meaning nagdugay gid sila. Okay? So there makaanak ka, oy, are committed. People here really like staying here. So you understand now this company really embodies this type of kanang belief, and not just saying lang, just to brand themselves as a people first organization or company. So I have here kanang case study, and not really a case study, an example lang siguro. Uh, to tie HR, kani magod siya na kanang resources a few years back where AI is not born yet. So I want to tie AI into the discussion with regards to HRM because it's very timely as well. Now, remember the big claim from the pro HRM side na they say people are assets na imong i-invest, dili na siya variable cost or cost na imong i-cut. So remember that one kay there's a company that learned the lesson the hard and expensive way. So this company is Klarna. It's a Swedish fintech na ay buy now pay later na kanang ko ano slogan. So in early 2024, they made a proud announcement and they built an AI chatbot that could do the work of 700 customer service agents. So mo na siya ang ilang i-replace. So first month pa lang, it handled around 2.3 million conversations and around 75% of all their customer chats. So very fast, very cheap. No, it's a very cheap option. So what they did is they froze hiring. They're no longer hiring people, and then they let their headcount shrink from about 5,000 people down to 3,500. Now, what does this tell us? No, what's the message to the market? Humans are a cost to them, no? And then they just cut it. So at first, no, the company sees na, oh, it worked, no? The transaction dropped 40%. On paper, it's very nice. Very, very, very nice. And then ultimately, nag-start na siya crumble, no? The cracks started showing up. Why? No, the customer satisfaction started dropping. The complaints went up. Okay, the complaints went up. So, kanang I want you to understand no that AI was fine with easy questions. Okay, they're very okay with it. Asa din nagkamali or where did it started going downhill? It broke down when the AI are asked to do the hard stuff, the complicated kanang mga cases, no billing disputes and whatnot. Or those cases na need og human judgment or a judgment call. Okay? And ironically, no, the company didn't put it in their head ba na this is what makes customers stay, no? That they're handled well, no? That the judgment of their cases are handled well. So by 2025, the CEO of Klarna admitted na this is the exact words no the CEO said. We went too far, we focused too much on cost. The result was lower quality. So again, they started rehiring humans. Okay. Pero remember, Klarna did not go bankrupt. They actually thrive. So later that year, they had a huge stock market, etc., etc. Money terms, money terms. You get it. They succeed. Pero what happened, man? Why they succeed despite what happened to them? Na kanang they started receiving these downward ko ano problems and whatnot. What they did is they asked AI to handle the simple stuff, no, the high volume stuff, the manual stuff, and then they let the humans handle the complex high judgment cases. Okay, so we connect it back to the discussion question. Klarna treated their people, they started treating their people as a cost. You know, you cut them, you let them go, then we can save money. It's a short term success. In the short term, you win. But in the long term, it hurts the company. Okay, kay painfully they found out that human judgment na ilang gitanggal was actually an asset sa ilahang company. Okay, so ano siya? So hindi nila alam hanggat nawala na. Okay? And that right there is the hard versus soft HRM tension. Now we're about to dig into later in the chapter. Again, the hard HRM sees people as a resource to manage for cost and efficiency, and the soft HRM sees people as assets whose skill and commitment drive the business. So going on to the next slide, we will be discussing about the two theories no of under like where HRM is backed at. We will not be discussing very heavily on the theories. Kay I believe this is for your IO, industrial organizational psychology, IO psych, and yeah, so most of the theories are there. So what we will be doing is a little bit lang ta mag-run through. So first with commitment, right? You hear that people who are given autonomy are much more inclined to work for their company, are more committed. Nga naman, well, technically, if you're given the task, no, to think for yourself, it mean you get a sense na your company trusts you. So yeah, so mo na siya no, you're more committed to the company if you're given more autonomy. Mo na siya gitawag na, and also kanang if your boss ba gets ask for your kanang advice, no, so you have a say in the decision making sa company. So you really feel na at one day ka sa company dila ka disposable item na pwede nila let go as soon as their profit tanks off, right? So that's why when people are given more autonomy, given more decision, that they feel that the company trusts them, they're more committed. And then for motivation, no, we look into different. We have a lot of motivational theories of motivation with regards to the industry or HR. And if you remember Herzberg's theory of motivation, there is the hygiene factors and then the motivational factors, right? Usa ni siya, dere. No, so usually motivational theories sa HR are looking into goal-directed behavior. So usually, mo ni siya ang basihan sa HR when they want to build engagement programs. And then next we have organizational behavior. It looks into how people act alone or in groups and how structure, process, and culture shape them. So we're tanawon dayon nila ang like structures sa kanang different companies because maglaylahi man ano, we have the bureaucratic companies or very highly bureaucratic, hierarchical. We also have family owned businesses that's different. We have team-based company. Usually, they don't call themselves as family. They call themselves as team. No, we're your team and like that. And then we also have social exchange. Now, this is also like a little bit psych, a little bit also business theory, econ side. If you give something to the employee will return it back to you in a form of say commitment or say desirable workplace behavior. So maybe that employee doesn't never has an unexcused absence, or that employee is a high performer because that employee is rewarded very well, right? So that is the social exchange theory. And we also have the AMO. So this just means to say that when the employee has the ability and the motivation, so the employee is also given the opportunity, then that employee kanang what do you call this one? That employee is performs well. So ang theory ani sa AMO na if one is missing, then performance is not really that that very di ka siya nindot ang performance. And then let's move into the business side or business half of things. I'll go faster here, kay these theories are not really psych theories. We do have the resource-based view wherein advantage comes from resources that are valuable, rare, and hard to copy, where people qualified, and that's the whole business case sa HR. We also have human capital, where what people know and can do adds measurable value to the organization. And we also have contingency, na there's no one best way to do HR, no, because we have different sets of staffings, different type of businesses, no, different type of industries. So HR depends on the size, no, the sector. Lahi ang retail sector, lahi ang academe sector, lahi ang BPO IT sector, right? You hear those terms? So maglahi-lahi siya. That's contingency theory. And next, we have the institutional, no, organizations copy what looks legitimate, so they'll be accepted. We also have resource dependence, where whoever controls something valuable holds power, and HR practices mirror that power map. And we also have agency, where managers act for owners, but then they may not want the same thing as these owners does. So that's why these managers are given incentives para ma-align ilahang wants, no, to the organizations or to the owners' wants. And then we also have transactional cost or transaction cost theory, where firms build structures that keep the cost of getting things done low. Now, I want you to spot the pattern because this is the real lesson. The psychology theories, they ask what makes people give their best. The business theories, they ask what makes people worth investing in. So HRM lives in the tension between those two questions. And of course, it never really fully resolves it. Okay? So I have here a discussion question. So contingency says there's no one best way. I want you to name two workplaces that would need completely different HR, and you say why. Okay, so pause the video and then think for yourself. Unsa man na industries ang different HR needs. So next, let's move on to the criticism of HRM. So we'll go through them one by one, and I want you to take them seriously. Na ay two charges ang ang critique sa HR. One is that it promises more than it delivers, and it's also questionable in terms of sa iyahang morality. So at the task number one, no, it's vague. Okay, so Guest called it an optimistic but ambitious label. And Noon called it uncertain and imprecise. Another critique is its one size fit all model. Kay, accordingly sa scholars, no, usually when HRM conceptual framework is sold to everyone one type of model, pero we have different environments, obviously, different types of people, different types of culture. So the model cannot satisfy the one size fits all. Another critique is it's very simplistic. Okay, so Fowler said that the message to bosses was beguilingly simple. So, and also unitarism is shaky. It assumes na staff and employer want the same things, which is not true, right? Because employer wants to reduce costs, staff wants to get paid, no, those two does not align. So that mo nang maipit ang HR sa tunga no, murag mapisat. Okay, and so anyway, next is it's manipulative. So money siya i-charge ni Wilmot. Kay any corporate value daw counts as good as long as it secures compliance. So actually someone named HR as human resource manipulation. Now, they see HR not really as kasangga sa mga employees, but rather a puppet to the organization. Some of it is true right now, right? 'Di ba? We cannot really depart from that kay who pays HR? The bosses pays HR, right? So, to be frank with you all, sa akong experience sa HR, mapisat jud ka. Because on one hand, you want to be ethical, you want to be pro-employee, but on the other hand, who feeds you? They have a saying, right? Don't bite the hand that feeds you. So of course, you want to satisfy your CEO's kanang wishes as well, right? So you need to see the common ground. But if you're a very good negotiator, very kanang you see that skill in you, you might be a good HR. Yun, mo siguro imo because you need to be a good negotiator when you're doing HR work. Kay lagi matung-an jud ka. Okay, and then another critique is that it's business first, no? So HR as business partner has crowded out HR as employee champion. So they even critique like a document. They searched up a document, and they saw that business was repeated 82 times or written 82 times, and ethics only once, no? So remember the five goals of HR. I told you na the first goal that is dropped is being ethical. So that those are the critiques. Now, there is Armstrong has his own verdict, and he said that the criticisms land, but the core ideas, strategic integration, commitment, people as assets, line managers owning the work have survived and are now simply accepted. And if you look at the critiques, tinuod man sad gyud ang uban, di ba? Vague yun siya, da siya one size fits all na connotation, which is not really good, no, because you cannot really put one model for everyone. You cannot also achieve that the employer and the employee wants the same things. The two really, in most cases, does not want the same thing. And of course, kaning manipulative and business first, and especially for toxic industries, you can still see this, right? Pero in the end of the day, HR, still, at the core of HR, you will treat people as an asset. Again, it is the people are the competitive edge. No, your rival, the company's rival, could copy your product, label it their own, but they cannot copy the people that you hire. Okay, the talents that you hire. So, mana siya ang kuan ni Armstrong. So next, let's look at the models of HR. We have two founding models. Then we will also discuss three more in the next few slides. So beginning first with the matching model. No, this is from Brun and colleagues. This models indicates na strategy comes first. Now the HR systems and the structures are should be aligned, no, or lined up behind it. O say job sa manager. The manager's job is to make structure and people systems push the strategy forward. So this is a tight, business-led, efficient, and the first real step towards strategic HRM. So what's the catch here? No, the catch here is right there in the name. No, people are the ones doing the fitting. Daily ang company nag-create og anang ni-adjust ba for the people, right? So one ang matching model. Now the Harvard framework where is kuan by Beer and colleagues, no, it's much broader. So unsa man din ni siya, no, HRM covers every management decision that will affect the organization or the organization to employee relationship. And then this model also take up the longer view or the long-term view. So people again, according to the Harvard framework, is an asset and they're not a variable cost. So, usay jobs, the manager's job is to align the strategy and HR policy. So, unsay objective sa company, i-align niya sa strategy and create a policy out from it. And HR's job is setting policies that reinforce each other instead of pulling them apart. So I have your discussion question on the side. If you were opening a business tomorrow, which model would you build from and what would you be giving up by choosing it? Now, let's look at the three more models. We have contextual first, then we'll look at 5P model the next slide, and then the European model. So, saan ang contextual? So, environment is disregarded in the previous two model. As you can see, Harvard model or Harvard framework and the matching model, they did not discuss environment, market crashes, changes in societal societal kanang shifts, right? Now, for contextual, environment is part, no? Contextual considers social, political, and institutional forces, and they consider it to influence HRM directly. So, para nila, no, na ay daghang stakeholders involved, no, wide cast of stakeholders. So, there's the inside, the people inside, the micro organization inside, and the bigger one outside. Okay, so next, let's go to the 5P. See, scular, whatever. So, it's easy to remember kay 5P man. Philosophy, policies, programs, practices, processes. So, unsa nang philosophy? Philosophy is what you say about people. Okay? So, unsa man di inyong ingon na brand ninyo or inyong panghuhugutan. Then policies. Policies is the guidelines that follow from it. Ang programs are coordinated efforts to drive that change, and practices like the resourcing, learning, reward, relations stem from those originated from the philosophy. No? And then the procedures that put it all into effect. And next, let's discuss the European model, which was ni si Brewster. So, sa European model, it assumes a legal framework. So, looks at the concerns, no, trade unions and social concerns. So, there is a dialogue between social partners, there is also an emphasis on social responsibility. Now, it also looks at multicultural workplaces, participations in decisions, and of course, continuous learning, right? So, nanata, no, hard HRM and soft HRM. This is the distinction that I most want you to leave with. So, usa dining hard HRM. Mo ni siya ang gina-consider na people as a resource to be deployed. So, it's very quantitative, calculative, no, business strategic. Kaingon tag na ko'y ROI ana niya if i-hire na ko siya, 'di ba? Return on investment. So really looks at people as ko ano as kanang not people. Okay, so manage labor as rationally as any other economic factor. And this is the logic side if you look at it in that way, no? And also headcount, cost per hire, productivity, output. Remember our psych assessment, no? Katong nag-count sila, katong mangita sila sa utility of that certain test. This is part here. So if you want to create a personality test, you want to get a personality test, under sa hard HRM is to look at the cost per ana na test per hire. So for the soft side of HRM, it looks at people as assets to be developed. So it roots in human relations under the descendants ni Elton Mayo. Elton Mayo, right? And then there is we have the communication now, motivation, leadership. Here you can also hear the terms growth, engagement, how to engage burnt out employees, creating playful environments, creating allowing them participatory decision making. So nga na siya, no? Now, here is the thing, right? Kinoy argued that the two are complementary. They're not opposites. So one example, if kani siya nagtingbabaw, wala na dayon ni. They complement each other. We have the business side, we have the human side. Okay? Hard and soft. Lain man ang term na hard and soft, no? It's more on like the business side, no, calculative, looking at the cost, looking at the ROI, right? And we have the soft side. How do we make people happier, more engaged in our company? Because you remember the social exchange theory. If we give them this, eventually they will pay us back, right? So, yeah, they are complementary. And accordingly, Trust and colleagues studied 8 organizations and found that there is a mix in every one, but noted that when the rhetoric is soft, the reality is still usually hard, with the organization's interest winning. So even if we have this side of HRM, this will still win. Muna again, I repeat, kinsa man ay gapakaon sa HR. No, ang gapakaon sa HR ang owner sa company. So malamang mo na kag kanang soft side, matrain pa man ni siya. Uy, pero sa company, pero how many days man na siya? Pila man mawagtang na tong kwarta kung i-train pa nimo siya, and time and resources kung i-train pa nimo na siya. So let that person go and hire a new, more competent person, 'di ba? So there eventually, no, the hard side will still win. The business side of things will still win. Or usually magtingbabaw, right? So asa na di ay ang HRM ron? What is it now? So we have here three things. The label is still used up until today. You still hear, no, HRM. You still hear that everywhere. 2026, you cannot hear people management, no. Still, so even where it just describes all personal work under a newer name. The pressure now is to add value, to show that the time and money spent on people produces something back, and that the practice is genuinely diverse. Now, HRM varies usually across firms, industries, and countries. There is no a one size fit all model. There's no single version of HRM. So unsa na di ay ang makitaan right now sa HRM? You can now hear these terms, no, human capital in management, engagement, and in fact, it's a facet for some companies. In my previous company, BPO, I was in charge of the engagement facet of HR. So usay buhaton sa engagement facet? Ikay maghimo sa events, ikay mahimod mag spearhead sa mga rewards and recognition programs for the company. So basically, your task is to make the employees happy. And then we have talent management, competency based HRM, EHRM, high performance work systems, and performance and reward. And lastly, in Boxel, Purcell, and Wright, I think this is the best line in the chapter where na sila, no, HRM is not something a company has to justify. The moment human beings work together toward a goal, someone is organizing that work and managing those people. Someone out there is still doing the job HR does, right? So it is happening whether you name it or not. I guess Boxel and colleagues says it during the time where most of the companies do not really hire HR. They feel like it's not needed. So na sila na kanang having an HR is not something na company has to justify to be had, no? Because someone out there is managing people and that is HR. When you are managing people, when you're looking over their kanang kung ano well-being and health and at the same time looking at the company's interest and aligning both, so there is someone out there doing the work of HR. So it is happening whether you name it or not. And that's the end here of our entire lecture. We have here our key takeaways. We have five. Number one is that HRM is every aspect of how people are employed and managed for far wider than just recruitment and firing people. And then the name changed four times in a century. The underlying question never did. How do you get the best from people fairly, ethically? And its theory base is largely psychology, commitment, motivation, social exchange, and AMO. The critiques are worth taking seriously. Katong unitarism, you cannot really align on the interests of the company and the people. Most of the time, mag-clash good siya. People want to be paid bigger salary. The company want to reduce cost. So we also have manipulation. No? Sometimes we have these theories to say, okay, oh, HR, can you create a rewards program that will make employees work better or will make employees what do you call this? Offer their time without being paid. OTTY ba? There is like that yun, no? Where company, where an employee, kanang grabe na kay siya ka-committed sa company na they feel at one na, murag usa na silang identity sa company. So, di na siya magunahon na whether she's paid or he or she is paid or not. There is that instance, no? And there it could be a critique, it's a large critique of the field. And lastly, there is no single HRM. There's hard and soft, matching in Harvard, real organizations mix them. All right? And that's it. Thank you very much for listening. So I hope you get a glimpse of HRM. Then the next lecture, we will talk about the facets na individually. So recruitment and selection on the next lecture, right? See you on the next video. Goodbye.